when the Meyaldis are getting a job by Paroi Melech Mitzrayim. As we all know, the Gemara in Saita says, who were the Meyaldis? Shifra and Puah, Machlekes and the Gemara, Miriam, Yocheved. But they did not listen to Paroi Melech Mitzrayim. Vatechayeno es hayolodim. And the question is obvious. The Maharal, the Mizrahi, even the Ramban hints to the question. Shifra and Puah were Meyaldis ha'Ivriyos. They were Jewish girls. Paroi was Melech Mitzrayim. They knew exactly who they're doing business with. And they certainly understood the consequences of not listening to the instructions, which were strict instructions. And they go, and he tells them, he gave them different kind of ways to tell if it's going to be a boy or a girl. The question is, the halacha is, Shulchan Aruch is a din of pikuach nefesh, which is deiche kol ha-Torah kulo, pikuach nefesh. And we know, if one's life is in the sakana, even if it entails saving somebody else's life, the halacha is that a person, that's how we paske, chayecha koidmi, shnayim shehoyu mehalchim bamidbar, ve'ein lohem elokitan echot shel mayim, two people are walking in the dry desert, and there's only one container of water. If one guy will drink it, he will be alive, and if both of them will drink it, they will both die. The halacha is chayecha koidmi. How in the world are the Meyaldis not listening to Paroi Melech Mitzrayim, but the Chayena Esayelot? I think the answer is as follows. I recently heard a story. Who the story goes on which sefer, I cannot tell you because I heard two different versions. But the Alte Tzalzerov, the Divrei Chaim, never ever in his 30 years of Rebiste, till Soif Chayov, ever wrote Haskome on any sefer, besides one time. What was the time that he wrote the Haskome? A Yid walked in. The question, who was the Yid? That's a question. And he comes in before Shachris, and he brings his pirush and tehillim to Reb Chaim Sanzer, and he puts it on the table. And when they finished Shachris, Reb Chaim Sanzer said, "You know what? I will give you Haskama on your sefer." What was Reb Chaim Sanzer so spoiled that from all other sforim that he declined to give his Haskamas? Here is the only time that he was Yahrtzeit min haklal. So he said as follows. The pasuk in Tehillim goes in Perek Mem Beis, Ke ayol ta'aroig alafike mayim, ke nafshi sa'aroig elecha elokim. Like ayol is thirsty, be'ergo, be'gaguim. He's really looking to quench his thirst. Alafike moim, kein nafshi, my nefesh, my soul, ta'areg elecha elokim. I am so much thirsty for the words of God. And the question, Rashi, and the Ibn Ezra, and the Radak, Ayol is a Loshain Zohor, is the male Ayol. Is Ayol, and there is Ayolo. The right way in Lashon HaKodesh would have been to say either Ke Ayalo Saroig Alafike Moim, or Ke Ayol Yaroig Alafike Moim. But giving the Lashon of Taroig for Ayol Zohor is ambiguous language. Said this Adam godly in his Pirush. There's a Gemara in the end of a Perek Hashutfi. The Gemara comes along, and the Gemara says, look how wonderful the deeds of HaKadosh Baruch Hu are. Nekeva Ayolo Rachmo Tzol. She has a very, very narrow rechem. K'shi Kiras Leiled V'hitzoi Ekes. She is very much screaming, and she comes in, Rashi says in Baba Basra and after Zion, she comes into the matzav of Pikuach Nefesh. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu mezamen lo darkoin. He takes a certain snake, and the snake bites her, and via this poison that the snake bites her at that moment, she can give birth and go on to the next generation of giving birth to a new generation of Ayala. Says the Gemara, what would happen? Look at the wonders of God. If the Ayala would not have this nachash, this darkoin coming in at a very crucial time, and will not give her, will not bite her, will not have the sting going in at that moment, she would die. If he would sting her a few moments prior to her later, she would also die. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mechaven Hasho. HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes that very, very, very punctilious moment that at that time the darkoin bites her and stings the brechem of the Ayala, and she gives birth. This is one Gemara. There's another Gemara in the Medrash in Tehillim, and Rashi brings it down right here in Tehillim. Ha'ayala azois chasido shebechayos. From all the animals, the chasido of the chayos is the Ayala. Uksha chayos smeois l'mayim. Well, all the animals are really, there's a drought, there's a thirst, they're sitting there and they need water and they cannot find water. They are coming near her. She should go and daven for them. The Ayala, the Chasidah Shebechai is the very same Ayala. What does she do? Choiferes gumo, she digs a ditch in the ground, umachneses karneo lesoicho, and she puts her horns within the ditch that she digs in the ground, vegoya bebechi, and she bursts out crying. VaHaKadosh Baruch Hu merachem oleya, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives rachmanis, bestows His mercy upon her. The water breaks out from the ground and all the chayas could drink. Ask this Adam godly in the Sefer, what would be if at that moment that the Ayala tzricha leiled and the darkon is waiting for her to give birth and to put the poison in so this delivery should go through? At that moment, all the chayas would come and ask the Ayala to please pray for them to get the water out of the tehoim. Will the Ayala first give birth and go through the course of the delivery? Or will she give up her own rights and at that time should be noisenes eineo lashamayim and goyo bebechi and bring upon the water for brothers and sisters, the chayas, who are so thirsty at that time of need? Says that Adam Gadol. Ke'ayol ta'aroi galafi ke'moi. At that moment, the Ayala, the Chasida Shebechayos, she makes herself into a zocher. She forgets about her tafki, the role of a mother. And she becomes Ayol. She turns herself into a zocher. Taroig alafike moim. She is a taroig because she is Ayol. She is indeed an akela, a female. But Ayol taroig at that moment, she makes herself as if she's a zocher. She forgets about her own specific needs at the time of Atzalos Nefashes. Kenafshi tzareg elecha lekim. Chaim Tzadzik says to say such a word, you must be a person with Ruach HaKodesh. And he wrote Daskom. Daskom means there. Every person has a tzorech. Every person, the framework of chayecha is different. Some people being mechaye someone else is part of the boundaries of chayecha kodim. The question is where you set your line. 3.5 years ago, I received a phone call one night. This was June 2012. I get a phone call from the house of Refoel Shmuelevitz. He would like to talk to me. I said, fine. Is there a possibility talking person to person? He doesn't want to be matriach, but if I'm in the neighborhood, if I could hop over, he would greatly appreciate it. No problem. I have to be in the neighborhood. I walk into his house. Now I want to give you a little background. 5.5 years ago, Refoel was diagnosed with a lethal disease called ALS. ALS is a disease similar to multiple sclerosis, where a person becomes, they call it nivun shririm, your muscles go goodbye. And Refoel deteriorated in a tkufa of less than 1 year. He moved from a walking person to a wheelchair, totally dysfunctional. Not only did he become totally dysfunctional, he wasn't able to talk. His beautiful shiurim, which were ashamed of her. He was a gewaldike balmasbir. His shiurim were second to none. He was sitting for the half a year from the beginning of 2012 till around May. During Pesach, they took him to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. They brought him to the biggest mumchi in the world for ALS. And he wrote a zt'l, and I have a copy. Anybody who wants, I can show him a copy of the zt'l. He says this is a lethal, this is a terminal disease. Life expectancy 2-4 years. He says there's nothing to be done. All the drugs are drugs that they give to alleviate some of their pain. It's pain and palliative drugs, but not therapeutic drugs to deal with the problem. There is no cure to the problem. At that time, there was a startup company here in Rehovot, in the Weizmann Institute, headed by a person called Chaim Yaakov Leibovich, came out with a gewaldike hamtzah of taking stem cells, enriching them outside of the body and re-injecting them to the spine. And they took 20 people in Israel to participate in this clinical trial. One of the people who was chosen for this trial was Reb Refoel. He said, I have nothing to lose. He went, and he was in Hadassah Hospital. On the 7th floor, I visited him there. He received the treatment for 1 month, and believe it or not, he walked on his feet like a young boy without a stick. It was a miracle, getting out of the wheelchair like a wilted flower, revived, reconstituted, rejuvenated in 30 days of treatment. Not only that, he was able to go back and to speak. He didn't speak as clearly and precisely as he did before. I would say that 80 to 90% of his koyach hadibur came back. It was a miracle. After a month, the clinical trial was over. The doctor in Hadassah Hospital, a Russian doctor who was running the program, together with the Weizmann Institute, told him, I'm asking you for a favor. Israeli television is going to shoot a story about this ALS new clinical trial. Harav Gadol, אנחנו רואים, we see that so many Talmidim come with you. would you mind being interviewed on Channel 2 News, and the nightly news, by Yonit Levy, which is not a perfect hostess, not basically known as Oyeves Yisrael, just to say a couple words about what happened with you. He called me in this house, and he told me, he says, there's not too many people I trust, and not too many people who could understand the consequences. But I want to ask you, ich will euch fragen, so mamish like this, I remember it like today, it wasn't too long ago. Ich bin weit von der Televisie kirchoik mizroch mi Mayrov. He says, I am so removed from this channel of media. Kirchoik mizroch mi Mayrov is an expression like the East is far from the West. I really don't have any desire to be there. But if I were to help, one person would be saved or helped because I went on the nightly news on television. Das ist nicht kein Cheshben bei mir, was mit sagen in der Miri Yeshiva, in der Chevron Yeshiva, in der Briski Yeshiva. It's totally not part of the equation. If I know I can help a Yid, es darf nicht sein kein frommer Yid. Es darf sein a Yid. It doesn't have to be a religious Jew. It has to be a Jew. And ich wackelt Sachen. He says, I'm debating and I'm baking in my own Jews. 2 days they ask me, and they nudging me and they're calling me. And I trust your judgment. What would you tell me? Is there really, says, that's the only cheshbon I have? And I said to Refoel, in my humble opinion, it will definitely make an impact and definitely make a remark. And as Reb Chaim said before, wer weiß, who knows? Maybe as Yidden out there in Eilat, or alte Yidden, Kiryat Shmone, that would see the movie 5 minutes, Reb Refoel speaking on the nightly news, saying about this drug, this treatment, this clinical trial. There may be such a matzav. And that person's life would be helped or saved. He can go out of the wheelchair and get back to be revived in his own life. He told me, geendigt ken avegen agresia shekoyach. And the rest you can check in YouTube. Go and see it. Reb Refoel interviewed on Nightly News Channel 2, July 2012. I am responsible. I am the co-signer. This Ayollah, at that moment of need, where she's so remote, she has her own needs. But the Hayris, Smeris is a time of thirst, it's a time of drought, and they come. And the shikul, the question on the table is whether to get the Egeni needs, or that the Chayena Sayaladim has a much broader spectrum to understand what is involved in the Chayecha Koidmi. What part is part of your Chayecha? But the Miyalda saving a baby was saving their own lives. And killing a baby was giving up their own life. There is no Chayecha Koidmi. This is Chayecha. Reb Refoel was a Goyen. As Reb Avrom said, his father-in-law, there's one person you could talk to about entire Shas. But in my humble opinion, I think we don't have a long time. My time is limited and we should be finished. But it caught me. I had a couple encounters with Reb Refoel. But as far as I am concerned, Zekolod. If a person, people said, what's the big deal? He went on television. If people would know what kind of unique Goyen he was, and yet so simple, so humble, so considerate, and so loving for his fellow brother Jew that he may not even meet anytime, anywhere. Before I conclude, I would like to say what I've heard from Reb Refoel. The Gemara steht in Oisin Nefoshes LaTzadikim. Divreihem heim zichroinam. Leil Asoro B'Teves Tovshin Lametes, 37 years ago. I was in the Heichel of the Miri Yeshiva. It was the Shiva of Refoel Shmuelevitz, who died the very same year on Gimel Teves, the day after Hanukkah. And Refoel said about his father, so much appropriate and so tzukipast, not about Refoel, but what we could take with us from Refoel. When Eliyahu Novi dies, mistalek b'se'oro hashamaymo, then Eliyahu takes adartoi vayigloim, he takes his aderes, his scarf, and he goes b'harova in the Yarden, vayike ovrom, va'Eliyahu omar el Elisha, sh'al ma'eseloch beterem elokach mi'imoch. Let's imagine the scenario. The Rebbe, Eliyahu Hanovi, and the Talmid Elisha ben Shofot, who was the great Talmid of Eliyahu. And a moment before expiration, or before Eliyahu is Eile b'se'oro hashamaymo, Eliyahu tells Elisha, make a wish. Sh'al, ask me, ma eseloch, what can I do for you? Beterem elokach me'imoch, before I am taken away from you. Vayomer Elisha, listen to this. Vehino pishnayim beruchacho Eloi. I'm asking for this courtesy to be bestowed upon me. The my ruach hakodesh, my nevuah, should be double pishnayim as much as yours. Vayomer ikshei solisha. This is a very hard wish. You're asking to be double as much nevuah and ruach hakodesh that I have? It's too hard of a wish. Im tire oisi lukach me'itoch. However, notwithstanding the above, im tire oisi lukach me'itoch, if you will see me while I go up to Shamayim, yehi lecha kain. You got it. You want a quest, you have a wish. If you will be able to see me as I go up, you deserve a double portion. Ve'im ayin. Ve'im ayin, however, if not, if when I disappear you cannot see, lo yiyeh, you're not getting a double portion. Very schwer to understand. The Gemara Sanhedrin says that Eliyahu, there's a few Gemaras in Shas, the Gemara Sanhedrin says that Eliyahu indeed had a double koyach, because Eliyahu was Mechaya only the Ben Atzarfosis, and Elisha was Mechaya the Ben Ashunamis, and is Merapen Na'amon Mitzar Osoi, and Mitzayra is Choshuv Kemeis. So Eliyahu had one portion to be Mechaya one mace, and Elisha had the ability to be Mechaya two mace. One a dead mace, and one a Lebedik mace. One the Ben Ashunamis who really died, and the other the Naaman who is Nitztara and Arbo Chashuvim Kemeis. Naaman is Mitzayra Shechoshuv Kemeis. Another Gemara, the Gemara says, Bakol Odom Iskane Chutz Mibnoi V'Talmidoi. Person is jealous than anybody else besides the Rav and the Talmid. What's the raya? That Eliyahu was willing to accept the request that Elisha, his Talmid, should be Pishnayim than him in Nevuah. Aber wie lernt man das Gemara? Wie lernt man das Pshat in the Posuk? How do you really understand? Said Refoel, ich gehört von Taten. He said it. I heard it from my father, and this is what I want to say about my father. And all I'm saying is what I heard that night from Refoel. In the lifetime relationship between a Talmid and a Rebbe, there is a constant underneath the surface, kina soifrim, or rather, an ability to look at my Rebbe, at the Odom Gadol, and to say, you know what, he's my Rebbe, I'm the Talmid, and I have what to look upon, I have what to thrive for, I have who to copy, and I have a Gavrod Mistapina Mine. When an Adam Gadol, your Rebbe, dies, unfortunately he's nostalgic. Slowly but surely, you lose it. You don't have anymore what Chazal called the Gavra de Mistapina Mine. You lost what we call in Yiddish, the muster. You lost the moshel, the image, what they call in Latin, the identica of the person in front of you who you could copy, who you want and you wish to clone. Says Eliyahu Hanavi, not if you will be able to watch me during the Stalkus Lukach Meimoch. We're not talking about seeing the Yitzias Neshama and there's a Bazunder, like some Meforshim would like to say, there's a unique character for Adam Gadol in the moment he's nostalgic, and if you can see that moment, you indeed are able to have the right to ask for a double portion. That's not what it is, said Reb Chaim. Im tire oisi lukach meitach. If when I depart from this world, I will not be here any longer, you will be able to always constantly have the musdiuknei of Eliyahu in front of your eyes. Then yehi loch asher loch, you do deserve the double portion. If you have the ability to always image, says, was von der Rebbe gesagt? What would my Rebbe say under the circumstances? In any junction in life, in any problem a person encounters through his lifetime, if he's able to face in front of him musdyukne the Rebbe, yehi loch asher loch. Ve'im ayin. However, unfortunately, if you're going to start diminishing, and you're going to start expiring, you're going to start losing it, ve'im ayin, you don't have no more Rebbe. I'm you know what? Guys around me, I'm quite better than them. Lo, you will not achieve this unique bakosha of becoming Bishnayim of Eliyahu Hanavi. We had a man who had profound qualifications. We had a man who was a genius, not only in Yediyas HaTorah, not only in Yediyas HaTorah. Reb Zalman Nehemiah Goldberg told me once, der einzige, was hat gekannt schreiben, der Erech Hashmal, Encyclopedia Talmudis, allein, is Reb Refoel. The only person who was able to write the value, Hashmal, in the Encyclopedia Talmudis, where he was the editor after Rav Zevin was Nifter, was Reb Refoel. With all the consequences and all the question marks of Hashmal. The only person who was able to perfectly embody a harmony, a beautiful of halacha, haggadah, psak, drush, with so much simplicity, with so much humbleness, with anova, shval berich, never ever raised his voice, always with a smile to anyone, whether he was a Talmid Chacham or an Amoritz. But I think not only was he a genius in Torah, he was a genius in understanding mankind and being able to share his ruchoi hagdoilo ve'atzilis upon others. We have to take from here. This is a night I read in the zt'l, which I received not only of a hesped, but it's a night of Yisraelos. What do we have to take home? Reb Refoel was a goyen, a genius in midos. Reb Refoel was an outstanding ilui in ben Adam lachaveri. Reb Refoel had this unique sensitivity of understanding that sometimes you gotta give up your own needs, even b'shor shekoiro leilid, to give the water to your fellow chayos who are toile einayim ba'yolo, who are looking upon you. If we would have the ability to take this Yishma Chocham v'Yosef Lekach, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to bless us and bench us with Yehi Bishnayim Beruchacha Eloi. Yehi Zichrei Baruch.